A skirted funeral dress is too revealing. You must be trying to attract men.
I've had enough of my husband's biased thoughts. Divorce? Bring it on. I'm leaving this house. My name is Kate. I'm a 40-year-old huge chocolate lover who ends up eating almost all of a family-sized chocolate bar by myself before I know it. I remember always fighting with my sister over it. Looking back, I wasn't a very mature older sister. But I know adults who are much less mature than I was. I was 25 years old back then. I had just married my husband, Kevin, who worked in a bank. We started dating through a friend's introduction and got married in about 6 months. Everyone was envious of my life that was going so well, but after getting married, my once kind husband started to change gradually.
Welcome home, you must be tired. What about dinner? It's ready. You should take a bath and relax.
Every time my husband came home from work, we would have this exchange. Of course, I would greet him at the entrance, and if dinner wasn't ready, he would be grumpy. So, I always came home from work before my husband, prepared dinner, and cleaned the bathtub. I won't say it wasn't a bother, but thanks to my husband's high salary, we were able to live in a detached house and live a married life that others envied. I didn't mind the minor whims of my husband, thinking that every household goes through such things. However, my husband's attitude got worse and worse. Even after getting married, I often visited my parents' house when I was off work. It was to see my 14-year-old sister, who was much younger than me. In our family where both parents worked, I think I raised my sister for the most part. It's not that I was dumped on by my parents, but I simply couldn't take my eyes off her because she was so dear to me. Because my sister was very frail. She had her good days, but she was also frequently hospitalized, and there were times when we were told that tonight was a critical time. She could be gone tomorrow. When I thought about that, it was inevitable that I would have a deeper love for her than a normal sister. That's why, even after I got married, I went to see my sister when she was off school. But my husband didn't like this. Which is more important, me or your sister? When a woman gets married, she should serve her husband's family. My mother didn't do anything like that. You're a failure as a wife. My husband started to express his theory and often preached to me for nearly an hour. At that time, none of my friends were married. So when I talked to my senior at work about my husband, she said, "It's your fault. When you get married, you have to serve your husband." I thought that was how it was. Looking back now, I realize I was ignorant. But even so, not seeing my sister was not an option for me. Because my sister's health was deteriorating. She was hospitalized again and was allowed to visit only for a short time in a sterile room. Rushing to visit when possible is a natural thing to do as a family. I sometimes took a day off from work to go, and I started going to the hospital even on days when my husband was off. But of course, my husband vehemently opposed this. One day, he suddenly invited his mother, my mother-in-law, to our home, and in her presence, he confronted me. "What on earth are you thinking?"
What? I take care of our home properly.
What's wrong with that?
Really, you're a hopeless woman. Even after I've told you countless times not to wear skirts, you still wear them. It's hard to look at a married woman in a skirt. What's wrong with wearing the clothes I like? And this is a dress that my sister chose for me. I can't just give up on it. There you go again. Whenever something happens, it's always about your sister Kate. The one you should care the most about is me. Who do you think provides for you? Hey, I have a job too. There's no reason for you to say you're the one providing. This is going nowhere. Listen, I've contacted your workplace and told them you're quitting. You should be grateful. From now on, you're going to focus on the house. What are you talking about? What are you doing without asking me? I'm not listening to you. From today, you're going to live with my mom. You can learn from her what it means to be a wife. I don't understand what you're saying, you're acting crazy. Shut up.
The enraged husband smashed a glass on the floor. He didn't stop there. In his fury, he began to throw things around indiscriminately. Needless to say, seeing the shattered glass made me truly afraid of my husband for the first time. Regret washed over me, wondering how I had ended up marrying such a man. Later, I called my company to cancel my resignation, but they told me not to cause trouble. Apparently, my husband had demanded my resignation in a way that was borderline abusive. So I lost my job and ended up staying at home as my husband wished. When I reported that I had quit my job as he wanted, my husband cheerfully apologized, saying things like I might have gone a bit too far, but there was no way I could believe his smile after seeing his true nature. The next day, my husband suddenly brought home a bunch of his work colleagues. He proudly announced, "I thought I'd show off my beautiful wife," and even his subordinates and colleagues chimed in, complimenting my looks. To top it off, he unilaterally announced, "My wife is an excellent cook. Please try her food before you leave."
Wait, this is too sudden. We don't have enough food for everyone.
It's okay, something simple will do. I don't want you to overwork yourself. I can go shopping if need be. Hearing this, one of his female coworkers exclaimed, "Your husband really loves you." I'm jealous. No, this man just has a good public face. If he truly cared about his wife, he wouldn't bring home a bunch of colleagues as if forgetting about our huge fight the day before. Filled with resentment, I began preparing the meal with my mother-in-law. After about 3 hours of eating and drinking, his colleagues left our home. "Ha, you! What?" My voice instinctively rose at my husband's disgruntled demeanor. I was anxious, wondering what would happen if he threw a tantrum like he did the day before. "Can't you be a little more cheerful? It looks like I'm not able to educate my wife properly." I didn't remember doing anything to deserve his criticism, but I couldn't talk back. I was scared. "I'm sorry." Even a child can apologize. "Mom, give her a score for today." He turned to his mother for support. "Well, she's not doing a good job supporting her husband, is she? I can't give her any score." "Ha! That's my mom, she knows what's going on. She can't even score you, how hilarious is that?" Laughing uproariously, my husband lightly tapped me. "Also, about the meal, I tasted a bit, but wasn't it not to Kevin's liking?" "That's right, Mom. Keep it coming." "What about her clothes? There were men among the colleagues, but she's showing off her skin. What do you think? As a woman, it's indecent to show off your collarbone. She should cover it with a scarf or turtleneck." Whose fault is it that the colleagues suddenly invaded this house, and I had to cook without even having time to change my clothes? It's Kevin's. I didn't understand why I had to be belittled so unilaterally. She really is something, isn't she? Despite me educating her day in and day out, nothing sticks. I bet she's just not very bright. No doubt about it. In the end, that day, I ended up enduring a lecture for nearly 2 hours. By the time I finally managed to get a bath and was about to sleep, it was already nearing dawn at 4 a.m. Having to prepare my husband's lunchbox, I decided to give up on sleep that day. Even after that, my husband's attempts to educate his wife continued as I kept visiting my younger sister. After about a month and a half, I received news of my sister's passing. I wished it was a lie, and the first words I returned to my mother, who announced the sad news, were, "It's a lie, right?" I had been told over and over that her condition was critical, and I had even had my last visit with her. I thought I was prepared, but my heart couldn't catch up. She was just 14 years old. I wondered whether my sister, who had fought through painful treatments and repeated hospitalizations, had truly been happy in her life. As her older sister, had I been able to provide her with joy? However, the last expression I saw on my sister's face at the hospital was a smile. It seemed she hadn't suffered. "You fought hard, and you did well. Thank you for everything." With tears streaming down my face, I hugged my sister and said my final goodbye. The funeral were over in the blink of an eye, and I realized that I hadn't been home for several days. I informed my husband of my sister's passing, but as expected, he didn't attend the funeral. Far from it, he said something like, "You should prioritize me over the dead." So, not wanting to hear such vile words at such a time, I ignored him and hung up the phone. When everything was over and I returned home with a heavy heart, my husband and mother-in-law were waiting for me at the entrance, standing like imposing statues. "You're quite late, aren't you?" "A family member has died. It's not like I could come back in 2 or 3 hours." "How can you tell such a lie so easily?" "What? What, are you in your rebellious phase? Always lying and opposing me. Whose wife are you?" "Wait a minute, my sister died. It's not a lie." "Huh, I wonder. Even if you show me you in a skirted suit, you haven't welcomed me home from work for days."
That's impossible, of course. Impossible? Why? If you love your husband, you should be able to do it. As a wife, welcome your husband home, you incompetent wife. Don't tell me you're having an affair? What? No matter how many times I tell you, you show your skin, and the other day you were giving my colleague suggestive looks. You just like men, don't you? What a shameful woman. What the hell,
Just as I was about to retort out of anger, forgetting my fear of my husband, it happened.
Divorce, huh? That's fine, a woman as frivolous as Kate doesn't suit Kevin, right? Mom, no, divorce is a bit.
I understand, I'll divorce. I immediately jumped on my mother-in-law's words suggesting divorce. My husband mumbled and kept saying to stop the divorce, but I had no intention of listening. If I didn't take this chance to divorce my husband, I was scared that he would become violent again. I was certain that now was the time. So, I quickly packed my belongings and left the house. Until the end, my husband kept saying things like, "If you apologize, I'll forgive you," but I ignored him, thinking he must be out of his mind. Still persistent, in the end, he grabbed my arm strongly and said, "Wait," so I hit his face hard with my bag and ran away. From there, I headed straight for a certain place. A room in an apartment that had been prepared just in case something like this happened. The moment I entered the room, I received a call from my mother-in-law on my cell phone.
Hello. Kate? Did you arrive safely?
Yes. I'm fine. I'm in a taxi, so Kevin won't find out.
That's good. Hire a lawyer and proceed with the divorce quickly.
Yes, I'm looking forward to living together.
Actually, my mother-in-law and I had been pretending to be on bad terms in front of my husband. This started the day my husband brought a colleague home. After his sermon ended and my husband fell asleep, my mother-in-law approached me.
Leave this house. Escape from my son, she said.
Each time my husband complained that his wife was hopeless, my mother-in-law, who seemed suspicious, would ask, "Really?" Apparently, her late husband was very similar to my husband, and she had suffered quite a bit. In my mother-in-law's generation, divorce was considered shameful, and she ended up not being able to divorce, but she seemed to want me to be free. Seeing the exchanges between me and my husband, she seemed to have thought, I must help her. That's when my mother-in-law, through her friend, found a property where a woman could live alone safely. It's hard to believe that she's the mother of my husband. I can't thank my kind mother-in-law enough. I've been living in the apartment that my mother-in-law prepared for me for half a month now, and finally, she came to my room, pulling a suitcase.
Welcome. Looking forward to it from now on.
Since living with us, my mother-in-law found out that her own son had become like that. Up until then, he seemed like a good boy, just the ordinary face he showed to his colleagues. My mother-in-law blamed herself, thinking that he became this way after getting married because of his genes from his father or scenes he saw when he was young. For me, even if what happened in his childhood was the cause, I believe the real problem lies with a grown man's inability to control his own emotions. So I don't blame my mother-in-law at all. My husband is also taking good care of my mother-in-law now, but that's because he thinks that she's on his side. I don't know what he'll do if he finds out that my mother-in-law has been helping me with this divorce. So, when my mother-in-law prepared this house, I proposed, "Would you like to live with me for a while?" She hesitated, saying, "Even though you're my daughter-in-law now, once you guys get divorced, I'll be a stranger to you." But I told her, "After all you've done for me, there's no daughter-in-law or anything like that. You're like my mother or my sister." I really think so. On the way back from my sister's funeral, my mother-in-law naturally led the conversation to divorce, intentionally assisting me. Because I understood this right away, I also jumped on the divorce. I thought it would take more preparation and time to run away from my husband, but thanks to my mother-in-law, that time came early. There's nothing but gratitude. Finally, the divorce was finalized through the lawyer. Now I'm officially free. It was 4 days later. I don't know how he tracked me down, but my ex-husband was waiting for me in front of the apartment. "I found you." "You're messing with me," my ex-husband raised his voice. Did he find out about that thing? While thinking about that, I acted calm.
What do you want now? It's your fault that the credit card balance and the deposit balance have decreased. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb.
Actually, before the divorce, I was buying furniture for this house with my husband's credit card little by little. I also secretly withdrew money from the bank account. This is my plan. When I consulted with my mother-in-law, she told me to go ahead and do it, so I emptied the account without any worries. The reason why my unemployed mother-in-law and I can live elegantly, having tea parties every night, is thanks to this money.
That's my money. Are you just going to do whatever you want without consequences? Your money? The credit card you made after marriage, and the money we saved together, right? It's our shared property as a married couple.
As I say this, I smile at him. Then, from behind me, "Oh, you found out, didn't you?" My mother-in-law came back from shopping. "Ah, you are back," I say, with my ex-husband speechless behind me.
What? Why is Mom here? Well, because we're living together.
My confused husband and my nonchalant mother-in-law.
So, you lied about going back to your parents' house? And why are you living with Kate, not me? I don't understand. I've given up on you, Kevin. Huh? I was the one who helped Kate escape. And to tell you the truth, Kate and I had already teamed up behind your back when we started discussing the divorce. But Mom, you were trashing Kate like crazy. Yes, well, when I was ranting about her, I was actually picturing you in my mind. What do you mean? Because you're a dim-witted son, and the kind of son who gets upset over a woman's exposed collarbone, I thought Kate would be in danger. She deserved better than a husband like you.
My ex-husband was stunned by his mother's words. I, on the other hand, found his mother's retort so amusing that I burst into laughter right then and there.
Mom, you know I'm your son, right? Unfortunately, yes. I should have raised you better.
I couldn't help it and burst out laughing even louder.
You're just like your father, you know? Seeing you treat Kate so badly made me think of myself. I thought, what if she leaves? Then you might fall back on me. I couldn't risk it, so I separated from you and moved in with Kate for both our sakes.
His mother's revelation brought tears to my ex-husband's eyes. Finally, when he yelled, "Is it my fault?" "Why? You're my parent. You've neglected me," even his mother was laughing. "Do I still need to parent a man who's about to turn 30? She scoffed. Our loud confrontation had attracted a few curious neighbors. They were chuckling at my ex-husband, saying, "What a spectacle he's making." Thanks to the watchful eyes of the neighborhood, he did not raise a hand against us and slunk back into his house. However, it seemed like he had gone off the deep end overnight. He started bad-mouthing us to his coworkers who used to come over for drinks at our place.
My ex may look nice, but she neglects her husband. My mom is a mother who doesn't care about her child. They're both spendthrifts, he whined to anyone who would listen.
However, one woman retorted, "You know, your behavior is a classic example of why women are wary of their husbands. It's a societal issue now." Although no one openly agreed, the office atmosphere implied that Kevin was in the wrong, and he began to feel cornered at work. Eventually, my ex-husband, who turned out to be sensitive, could no longer bear the judgmental looks and whispers. He hastily resigned from his job. He'd been so quick to verbally abuse me, yet he quit his job as soon as he was on the receiving end. How pathetic. Feeling lonely, he sent me a long-winded letter justifying his actions, boasting about his greatness as a man. The letter was a whopping 10 pages long. I was taken aback when I saw the thick envelope. I had blocked his texts, but if he could write this much by hand, I shudder to think how many texts he would have sent. His last sentence was, "If you ever miss me, feel free to contact me," so I cheekily replied, "Then please proceed with the property division." Of course, that resulted in a huge fight as well. I used to live in fear when we were under the same roof, but not anymore. I stood my ground with my lawyer. In fact, even before his mother advised me to run, I had been secretly recording my ex-husband's actions at home in anticipation of a divorce. All the months I spent enduring his harsh words while living in that house paid off. Thanks to the evidence, I successfully finalized the division of property. Afterwards, I ended my cohabitation with my ex-mother-in-law when I found a new job. Even though it was still a reasonable commute, she got herself a boyfriend. The person who introduced us to the apartment turned out to be him. She left holding hands with her boyfriend, saying, "Come visit us once we're settled." I must say, my ex-mother-in-law really surprised me. She's a wonderful woman, so I can understand why she's popular, no matter her age. As for me, I had spent my prime years focusing on work due to the career change, thinking I had missed the boat for remarriage. However, I started attending frequent online drinking with my colleagues. Thanks to this, I had more chances to casually exchange contact information with people I usually didn't talk to, including a director from another department who showed interest in me. At first, I kept my distance since we worked at the same company, but as we started having private online conversations about things we couldn't discuss at work, we grew closer and began dating. The department head, who hasn't been in a relationship for many years since his last girlfriend dumped him due to his overcommitment to work, treated me very carefully, saying, "I don't want to make the same mistake again." And, happily, we've decided to get married next year. He is getting married for the first time, so I was worried whether his parents would dislike me, who has been divorced once, but I am relieved to see my relaxed in-laws saying, "Thank you for taking our son." When I told my former mother-in-law about the remarriage, she was very happy. Oh, and speaking of my ex-husband, he apparently got a job at a different bank and remarried, but given his personality, it seems like he got divorced again. He is now divorced 3 times. He works at a bank and has a good initial demeanor, and because he blames his previous divorces on his wives, it seems that women get caught. Even when my ex-mother-in-law tells women about my ex-husband's true nature at a marriage greeting, it seems that my ex-husband skillfully manipulates them. Well, once you reach 3 divorces, you'll probably be avoided by women, but I hope there won't be any more victims. I think he won't have a good end because he's probably hated by many women. Well, it's none of my business anymore.